Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Upon the face of all mankind, our numbers up and the dead won't sign. Go along to get along, hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's worldwide genocide. The overlords are hungry parasites. Report the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotten, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. I cut my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Great start as always. That's right, Dalton. Thank you for having us in the chat. Thank you for having our back. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Dustin. It is Sunday, November the 5th, 2023.
I don't know sign language all that well, so I can't do enough to.
I can speak to you with facial language pretty well, but for the context of the show that's coming up, it's going to be pretty tough to. It's going to be pretty tough to do. Hope you are well. We're coming to you from the middle of the Iron Mountain that runs plumb from over across the North Carolina border up to across the Virginia border from where we are here in Carter County, Tennessee. And we have sound now. Stephen Lee Day says, "What's up, guys? Nice to have you." Always enjoy seeing Stephen Lee explore the area. They are transplants from Pennsylvania. They come down here and they do a lot of the local history stuff that we grew up doing, and probably a lot of us
Probably a little jaded to it now.
Yeah, probably a lot of us, really take it for granted, and it's new to Stephen Lee, and it's really cool to see them exploring that. So go check them out. Have a Stephen Lee Day. They're in the chat there. Go follow them on YouTube and keep up with all their adventures. Dustin, I've got my water right in your way. I'm sorry. I get that anyway. But yeah, man, forgetting to plug up the microphone. You know how
We're
it is.
messing with the lighting, making us look prettier and less gauntly.
Don't we look nice though? Don't I look less like pale face and I look like Dr. T killed a lot of the time, and
So you damn vampire?
I guess maybe. Pete looked at that video. If you didn't see our video with Dr. T killed, go back and check that out from last Sunday. It ended up. I actually was posting the video and I fell asleep before I finished the process of uploading the video.
I was wondering why it showed it was posted a lot later. I was like,
So I didn't end up posting it until Sunday or until Monday. Yeah, it didn't have. With YouTube, you got to sit there and stay with it until it's complete. And I fell asleep at like 8 o'clock, and I woke up at about 2 a.m. and was like, "Dang, man!" So I set it up to run as a premiere and did it Monday night at the 10. But it ended up being the night before Halloween, so that kind of ended up being a good night for it anyway. And we were able to get in the chat. Here we go. Spill the tea in the chat. Good to have you with us now, Stephen Lee. Hot stuff. All right, there we go. We've got Dalton in the chat letting us know no sound. Spill letting us know no sound. Joe letting us know no sound. Everybody letting us know no sound. So good to have y'all with us. Thank you so much. You'd think my face would be a little red in the new lighting, but no, I'm beyond shame right now, people. So just give it to me. So tonight's episode, Smart City Agenda Exposed. The reason that I went back to this topic again, that's one of the main reasons I started this channel, is because we've seen from most of our local or our favorite podcasters or talk maybe a lot of talk show news, or maybe somebody like Tucker Carlson, maybe somebody like Glenn Beck, a lot of these kind of famous more right wing people, and even people like Bill Maher on the left wing, and what's his name that wrote for the Rolling Stone for years. His name's escaping me now, but either way, whether you're on the left or the right, you see people that are talking about these issues with the World Economic Forum. Russell Brand, that's another guy on the left who's talking about it. And everybody talks about how they're not going to eat the bugs. They're not going to live in this futuristic hellscape that they describe. And we look at what the World Economic Forum says that they want to do, or what members of it say they want to do. I was doing a little research for this show, and I kept running across where they would ask representatives in long form interviews. So you really had to read to get to a lot of this stuff. So it's not stuff that most of the public is actually going to read. A lot like the letters that the World Economic Forum writes itself. So you got to have a certain interest in it. You're not going to come across it really accidentally unless you already have an eye for what you're looking for. But as I was reading through some of this stuff, I wanted to find where the roots of all these things, phrases that you hear, like the you will own nothing and you'll be happy, and you will eat the bugs. We all hear that one. And there's lots of videos you can find of people like showing where scientists are recommending that we go to insect protein. You can see that they are putting it in foods and certain products, particularly particularly in Europe. They're putting a lot of like cricket protein in things, and these foods have chitin in them and stuff like this. So it's not a conspiracy theory to say they're going to make you eat the bugs. It's not like when they say you'll eat the bugs that you're just going to be out there like picking grasshoppers out of the yard and no, but the same It's if you want to look it up, it's 8 predictions for 2030 by it's a contributor for the World Economic Forum. And if you read these long interviews with the spokesman for them, you'll come across where he says, well, this is not actually, like a statement of, or a stated position or a goal of the World Economic Forum. This is a contributor to our website, and they're, just putting these thoughts out there, and we're a forum. We're just here to discuss these ideas. Now, they've been around since 1971, and each year, the leaders of all the nations of the world, basically, most of the civilized big player nations, come to this meeting at Davos. So I'd say they're a little more than a forum. They definitely have some pull to be able to just get that number of people in a room together. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they're pulling all the strings or anything like that, although I do think that they are kind of the public, a public forum for what is really going on behind the scenes, and all the big money players who are actually implementing these things that the World Economic Forum suggests. So they make these suggestions, and then all of a sudden lots of shell corporations pop up doing these things that they suggest with the leaders of the companies or the countries that they suggest, and the countries that they suggest these things go on, and just suddenly happen to have research grants for corporations to be able to advance the area that this thing is recommending, that the World Economic Forum is recommending. So I'm sure it's not actually a conspiracy or anything like that, or I'm sure it's just, you couldn't really say it's a conspiracy because they do say right in the open what a lot of their goals are. So if there is conspiracy, it's going to be kind of hard to prove, since they mostly just change the law or the policy to reflect whatever they want. So then they really technically couldn't call it a conspiracy anymore. Let's see. We got Spill was in the bed. Yeah, by 7:30 a few nights ago. Early dark sex. Well, see, behind me you have Vodka Moon, that our friend Dr. T. Gill brought over for us, and so I tried a lot of that during the I had a couple drinks of it during the show, but at the end of the show, I don't think it was on camera. I think it was after we killed it. Tim didn't have any of his. I think he had one little sip maybe of his
Then we kind of
glass.
mixed all of it into it.
Yeah, and then I just ended up taking that and drinking that before, and I haven't really drank much in several months.
And that stuff, it's creeping. Yeah. It creeps on you because you're like, it ain't that bad, and you're like, oh damn.
Yeah, it is 60 proof liquor that tastes like Kool-Aid almost. It has a hint that you're drinking alcohol, but it doesn't taste like 60 proof liquor. It tastes like a wine cooler that doesn't have the sour taste of a wine cooler, Mm-hmm. But I'm just mean the alcohol level of it tastes about like a wine cooler. Aaron says, "Don't touch the trim." We can hear you now. He's talking about Hunter S. Thompson. Dalton, yeah, I wish we'd spring forward.
I thought we were supposed to.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and I was like, really?
And never fall back again, too, man. Yeah, I think most people prefer to have more light in the afternoon than the morning. Yeah, there's different states that do it different ways, too. And one of the reasons that they did do it in the 80s around here, that actually it might have been nationwide, they did it in the 80s. And there were, according to the story that I heard, a lot of the mothers got together and demanded that it was changed because there were too many children. They didn't like their children standing out in the school, waiting on the school bus. It was what was effectively, 5:30 in the morning, the way it used to be. So they were out there, in, sub-zero in some cases temperatures, and the coldest part of the night, basically.
That 1 hour doesn't really make a difference in the temperature.
Yeah, no, most of the time it really doesn't, but you do have some light a little bit, so I guess that's what they were saying. But you usually don't get light in the dark until between 6:30 and 7 anyway. So I don't know that it makes much difference, but that was the story that I heard as far as why they ended up going back to the daylight saving time. Daylight saving time. Klaus Schwab is right. Yes, and Klaus Schwab is, he's the founder of the World Economic Forum, but he's also, when he says something, you can kind of take it for, okay, it may not be the official policy of the World Economic Forum, but when you got a guy who dresses like Klaus Schwab up there, basically calling all the shots of everything, and everybody does it. And he's meeting with the heads of state of, all the different countries. Folks like, Henry Kissinger, he's real buddy with that guy. A lot of recommendations that come out of that place have been implemented as far as
your ass.
Agenda 2020 or Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. And, a lot of those same policies spread worldwide. They got accepted by the UN. So the idea that nobody is, doing what the World Economic Forum says and it's just a forum is, okay, true, but at the same time, there's policy being set based on their recommendations. And
anyone that goes in front of the public dressed like a damn Bond villain, there's you can't trust them with that.
Apparently, according to Armageddon Hour, Tennessee was talking about not changing anymore, but here we are in Alaska at 6 p.m. again. Hunter S. Thompson was the Rolling Stone. No, that wasn't one I was talking about, really. Hunter S. Thompson. I was talking about Matt Taibbi, actually, when I was talking about the left wing. I do like Hunter S. Thompson a whole lot. Have you ever seen, there was a movie where Bill Murray plays Hunter S. Thompson, and it's got a lot of the same scenes from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in it, and it kind of revolves around the release or the writing of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I can't remember the name of it offhand. But it was pretty interesting. Bill Murray, even though he didn't really look like Hunter S. Thompson, he was more convincing to me based on interviews that I'd seen of Hunter S. Thompson at that time versus, Johnny Depp in the movie and Fear and Loathing did an amazing job. But the Hunter S. Thompson he was imitating was kind of the older Hunter S. Thompson, which was a little different from the way Bill Murray was playing him. Because he didn't have the older... I feel like he didn't have the older Hunter S. Thompson to influence him. He saw the younger one, and if you watch some of the interviews when he is younger, in like the early 70s, and he's kind of more put together than you would expect for somebody that's on as much drugs and alcohol as he is, based on how when you see him go on Conan O'Brien as an old man, and he's just kind of like, walking, getting lost, finding his way around the couch, and, they're out there shooting machine guns, and he's funny and witty and stuff, but he's kind of, just kind of a crazy old man. Mm-hmm. And he didn't really have a lot of that quality when you look at him in the, not the old man quality. I mean, he didn't have the old man quality, but I feel like Johnny Depp kind of played a lot of the old man quality into him in that game, or that movie, it felt like, or an older man. But anyway, maybe that's just my way of looking at it. It's a Bill Murray movie. I wish I could think of it, but if you look, we're the Buffalo Room, that's what it is. And it opens up with Neil Young singing Home on the Range. Winner, let's see. Winner of however you say it was Hunter's Friend at the Stone, Jan Werner. I think it was more for kids to have a light see walking to school. Yeah, Dalton, I believe you're right. And it might have started in Canada, I don't know. But it had nothing to do with farmers. They did an episode of Teen Titans Go that my kids watched about 100 times where they explained that daylight saving time had nothing to do with farmers, but nobody listens to them. They just keep saying that it's the farmers, and Robin gets very upset that nobody will listen to him. And that it's not daylight savings time, it's daylight saving time. Daylight saving. You're saving daylight. Daylight saving. My kids always thought that was funny. And I thought it was pretty funny too.
Or like daylight slaying time.
Yeah.
Like, you wake up, it's dark, you go to work, get home, it's dark. Just kills all your lot.
I agree, Dalton. I mean, maybe instead of changing the time for everyone, just start school a little later. I mean, why not start school? Most people work like a 9 to 5, so do like 8:30 or 9 to 5. Give, I guess 8:30 to 5, and instead of a lot of the schools, you've got to have the kids there at 7 o'clock, and then they get out at 3, and it's like, so you'd think you'd want to have parents drop them off right before they went to work, and then pick them up right before they came home, or something like that. But is Schwab a cross-dresser, Armageddon Hour? I haven't seen that. Lacy silk lingerie. Yeah, wow. I have not seen that. We're the Buffalo Room, Aaron. Yes, thank you. He has it on VHS and DVD. Hunter hated where the Buffalo Romans scolded Murray over. Is that right? He was in the dark stuff. I heard Spill that he said he just made up all the adrenochrome stuff as far as it being a drug that he didn't know. But I kind of don't buy that. Do you? Do you think he just? I mean, I don't think he's the only origin for that idea. Is he of the adrenochrome?
Wouldn't think so, but I can't say either way.
I don't know, but he was saying that in some interview or another that he just made all that stuff up. But that's what you'd say, right? If you were, involved in something where you had occasion to ingest it and you knew what it was or whatever. But there's also, sterilized, or there is. They synthetically create adrenochrome too that they use in hospitals and stuff for different medications. So there is synthetically produced too. So I definitely don't buy he wasn't into it. Yeah, I don't either. There was I read when I was really deep into a lot of different conspiracy rabbit holes back in the day. I kept coming across this story about a guy. I won't say because we're on YouTube, but I won't say exactly what he described. But he described the type of film that people pay to see some things, not pornography, but like people becoming unalived in real unalived IRL, and the
It has a form of tobacco that you shove up your nose about it, called it.
Well, there was a word that there was a rumor that alleged that Hunter S. Thompson was a director of such type of films. Yes, that. He was into Granny's little tobacco box, little snuff box. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but it's not hard to imagine. Once even if you've just kind of seen a little bit of him, it's not hard to imagine because we know that stuff goes on. Mm-hmm. We've heard about it there's a reason we know what it is. We've even heard in the past. You can go on YouTube right now and actually find it from German TMZ. They were talking to the Scorpions. The Scorpions bass player, Jans, what's his name? I don't remember his name, but he was a bass player for the Scorpions. They were talking to him, and he said, "Yeah, man, let's go to this party, and it's like $100,000 to get in, and then like you watch them KI double hockey stick somebody, and people pay to get in to see this." He's like, "Man, this is not for me," and. But there's all kinds of rumors of stuff like that. And if you watch, Hollywood movies have been telling us that for a long time too. You look at things like Roman Polanski's films and what's his name, Stanley Kubrick's films. They really show us a lot of this stuff behind, what it goes on behind closed doors. And of course it's art, but it has ties to reality and. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but these elite folks that are at the top of the food chain in many of these movies and in many of these conspiracy theories where, the guys in the robes whose faces you don't see, these are actually a lot of the people, the elite of society in these films. And one of the things that they do in films is basically channel their energy to control the reality around them. Now, you could say that a lot of that has been done. An EpiPen, yeah, whippets, but then that's artificial. You're right, Spill. What's an actual line from Phil and Loathing Air? He says the occult uses blood and stem cells and fetuses for wide reason, from satanic rituals to health. Yeah, I agree, Aaron. It's a fact. It's in all kinds of pharmaceuticals. We talked about that with Dr. T. Killed. There was a New York Times article about how, and there's a lady who read a book. It's called Blood Money. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but it was basically how she was claiming, and you could look at it from a different point of view, but her perspective was that Big Pharma was basically ripping off the poor and underclass of America to sell their literal lifeblood, their plasma, with the telling you that you're doing it to save lives, and it is indeed making pharmaceutical drugs that do save lives, and it does do that. But a large portion of it, most of it is sold overseas to wealthy people to make life extension drugs, to make
It's still saving their life.
experimental drugs, vanity drugs, things like that actually make them look younger, cosmetic drugs. So a lot of your life-saving plasma is, but there's a huge economy based on it too, is what she's saying. It's like, this whole engine of worldwide transport is just dependent on people going in and poor people sticking their arm out and having their literal life sucked out of them and then put back into them without their essence in them. And, while yes, they are helping people, they're also just enriching a whole lot of people, and they're also they've made this whole economy based on where you have people worked in the plasma centers. You get rid of it, and suddenly there's that's a huge hit to the economy. It would destabilize things if you didn't have the plasma economy, and so. At any rate, there's all these different ways that people have been getting rich off of our modern economy, and the World Economic Forum has predicted for many years now, and they have the member states have started to implement what we would call the fourth industrial revolution. And as we go back, there have been different innovations from the automobile to electricity and radio waves technology, the automation of machinery. We started really putting computers into everything in like the 70s and 80s, and now the whole world's run on computers, and you literally cannot even make a toaster with one person now. So everything is interconnected and dependent on. There was a guy who did a YouTube video, it's very interesting. He's like, I know I could make a toaster, right? He's like, into modern technology, in modern America, like I can make this toaster from scrap. And this is not a dumb guy, but there's so much speciality built into everything that we do. If we were suddenly cut off from one another, if our supply chains were suddenly unable to meet, and we were suddenly unable to get a boat from China with the proper springs on it to make a toaster, we wouldn't be able to make a toaster now. So it really is all fragile how everything works together. So we can see that there would be an incentive to keep everything interconnected and make sure we have a framework for communication around the world, to keep our supply chains going, to keep talking to one another. So a lot of the things that they talk about in these smart cities and the smart agenda, it actually does make a lot of sense. I mean, there's nothing wrong with our global shipping networks being able to communicate with one another for the most efficient use of their fuel, of their time, the most efficient carrying of their cargo. There's no reason that they can't use a network of satellites that work together, to give them the data that they need to do that. Okay, all this stuff, what I'm saying, I'm not a Luddite here, right? I think all this stuff is good. Technology is how we move forward as a species. But a lot of the things that I'm going to point to tonight, as I get into some of the sources here, are going to show you that these good things that we're pointing out about why these smart cities are being implemented, the selling points on them are not the only selling points. And we're going to go back and we're going to look at some of the first funding that the government publicly did for smart cities. And this we're going to go back to September of 2015 under Barack Obama. And let's look at the first statement that he says right here about the administration announces new Smart Cities initiative to help communities tackle local challenges and improve city services. He says every community is different with every community is different. Well, it's different needs and different approaches. But in communities that are making the most progress on these issues have some things in common. They don't look for a single silver bullet. Instead, they bring together local government and nonprofits and businesses and teachers and parents around a shared goal. All right, so that's what Barack Obama says about the new Smart Cities initiative, and he's talking about this is back in 2015, investing over $160 million in federal research and leveraging 25 more technological collaborations to help communities tackle key challenges such as reducing traffic congestion, fighting crime, fostering economic growth, managing the effects of a changing climate, and improving the delivery of city services. The new initiative is part of the administration's overall commitment to target federal resources to meet local needs and support community-led solutions. All right, so one of the things we got there, as we'll look at a little bit further, but we've already got kind of the hint that the whole point of this is to get the federal government involved in your local solutions. And as we go further into some of these documents here, the very early documents about when the federal government was investing in these smart cities, why they wanted to do it, and we'll keep coming back to basically to get the federal government into local community decision making. So we'll look at some further documents as we go. Clockwork Orange, soft disclosure, Eyes Wide Shut, agreed. Eyes Wide Shut's a good one. If you look at Eyes Wide Shut, if you look at The Ninth Gate, that's a Polanski film. You look at like To the Daughter a Devil, or To the Devil a Daughter, Rosemary's Baby. You look at all those movies. The 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's so much. There's so much truth to, at least that he's trying to expose things that are going on behind the scenes in all those movies. Joe Rogan goes to Mexico to get stem cells. He talks to other people and says, "Oh yeah, man, you should go to other places." And, "Oh man, you got to go to Colombia to get that." And I got my knee done in Colombia, and so when you got Joe Rogan money, you can do the kind of medical tourism. You can go to the best place in the world. So there's ethical laws or whatever in America that will prevent us from doing certain things, and some of them may or may not be warranted. But when somebody wants to go to a country where they do allow that, you have American money like Joe Rogan, you can pretty much go anywhere. What do you get, $100 million or something for his deal with Spotify? I think it was something like that. Mm-hmm. But you got $100 million. You got Joe Rogan money. You can do a lot. He's basically done the comedy club down there, the Mothership that he's running in Austin. He's running it as almost like a vanity project, but he's trying to basically recreate a lot of the magic that the comics had when they came up in these places like the Comedy Store, where it was like a friendly environment for comics to be able to come through and say whatever they want, and nobody's going to, "Oh my God, I can't believe you said that, how dare you, you've offended me," and this is and then the club basically give in to the audience when somebody says this. So I think that I think they've done a lot to really build up Austin around that. It's pretty cool. Aaron, you what? I'm not gonna read that, but I'd say you're right. I've heard that there are some that eat it, Aaron. There's some of the rabbis will eat it, and that's part of it, and some of them will drink the blood.
About that one discussion we had when we went on the tangent about Jesus's.
Yeah, that's right. The holy foreskin. There really is a thing. I mean, look it up. Somebody kept it. They claimed to keep Jesus's foreskin. He got circumcised 8 days after he was born, and so yeah, they've got it in a box somewhere. I forget what they called it other than the holy foreskin, but it's good to use, but not to merge with. So I'd agree. Yeah. Tim Zaywall again. Yep. Tim's weekends are pretty busy doing the wine circuit. Said he wasn't feeling well or not. All right. So back to a little bit more of the document here from President Barack Obama's investment in the smart cities. And one of the main things they get to here is they're creating test beds for the Internet of Things applications, developing new multi-sector collaborative models. Technological advancements and diminishing cost of IT infrastructure have created a potential for an Internet of Things, a ubiquitous network of connected devices, smart sensors, and big data analytics. The United States has the opportunity to be a global leader in this field, and cities represent strong potential test beds for development and deployment of Internet of Things applications. Successfully deploying these other new approaches often depends on a new regional collaboration among a diverse array of public and private sectors, including industry, academia, and various private public entities. So basically they're saying we need to get everything involved in this. We need everywhere you go. We need every entity that you interact with to be connected to this Internet of Things. We're also going to collaborate with civic tech movement and forging inter-city collaborations. So we're basically going to wire the whole city. Now, again, it's not that I have a problem with us wiring the whole city. I think it's actually a good idea. I think we should be all able to connect with one another. I think the first responders, police, should be able to contact one another and maybe even use a computer to tell them what the fastest way around is. Mm-hmm. But there are certain things that we don't want to do, and some of this is... Go ahead, Dustin.
But I guess with sort of a... It's both, like you say, it's good and bad. Even like if you're using like a Google Maps or one of the map things, how it'll even show you like, hey, this route has a traffic jam. Traffic hasn't moved here. Do you want to take this other route that'll get you through that in real time?
Like stuff like that's great. I don't disagree with having things like that. I don't disagree with us voluntarily going into a network with somebody, even like Google, who may not always be the greatest company to work with, especially since like they do a lot of their work. See, when we get into this a little bit more, you'll see the government is basically in this at every step, and I think that's the whole point of implementing the smart agendas, because it's not that the smart agendas are a bad thing on their own, but rather than developing naturally and people innovating their way into them, what is happening is they are being basically like set up in experimental stations, and they're run, and then they get passed on without really making the necessary improvement, and every time they lead to more decision making by the computer, obviously, and less by human beings. They end up taking human beings out of the loop. So it comes with a lot of strings attached, and they mentioned some of them. I do want to see if I can still look at this without. Why is this like this? See what I'm saying here, Dustin?
Mm-hmm.
How do I fix that?
Hold on. Go ahead and take that off. What's that drag down do?
This?
Yeah.
It's the right indent, but why is this right here? I don't understand. Okay, let me see if I can find it over here. Open it in Google Docs. Let me try to open it over here. Sorry, folks. Trying to Control F something on that, and is then blocking. Okay, that's not the right one. Let me try to refresh it here. Okay, I'm looking for a, there's a program that basically they're turning over. Now, the human beings, they say, are still calling all the shots, but it's called Audrey. And it's not, I'll show you what it's doing, guys, here. If you see what it's doing when I try to Control F it. Let's see what page is that on.
Can you drag this one over?
Oh no, let's just go down to, we'll reload it and go down to page 20. But basically they've created this system called Audrey that's like an Alexa that runs first responder systems, right? And one of the things that they're saying is they want to turn over all these. We're just written like that, isn't it? Look, it wasn't like that earlier when I looked at it. Maybe it's because I opened it in Google Docs. I was looking at it in Drive PDF Reader earlier. So let me try that again and open it in Drive PDF Reader. One moment, please. Bear with me, folks. But Audrey was the name of the system, and they're basically running all the routing of the emergency calling, everything through that. And okay, that's all well and good. We use computers right now to run a lot of stuff. We have people manually operating the phone systems. We also at 911, if nobody can pick up, there's a computer that will take your call and at least have you on there and get you started and everything. So it's not that we're not using all that. But the thing is,
Yes, you can change right there.
okay, yeah, there we go. No, it's not letting me open with the other one. Let me just look down here and see if I can see it better. Here we go.
You said it was on page 20, so.
Yeah. Oh no, that's not the right page. That's not the right paper. Sorry, folks. I didn't know it was gonna give me such trouble here. That's for later. All right. We'll look up the Audrey AI system real quick. I bet a quick Google will find us some Audrey AI system. Here it is, 5 days ago from Homeland Security. Let's watch this video real quick. What do you think? Oh, wait a minute. Let me make sure you can hear it. I can't hear it either, I don't think. Desktop audio is on. Let's see if we can hear it, maybe. It's got captions if we can't hear it though. Let's try it.
Audrey today runs on some of the most powerful computers in the world. But as computers develop and Audrey becomes more optimized, this is going to move down closer and closer to the edge of where people interact with technology. First of all, it's going to be perhaps on the fire engines themselves and the vehicles.
Oh,
then it will be on the first responders' equipment, and then perhaps for people at home, it's in their house and all around them. When first responders are attending an emergency, Audrey can be an extra set of eyes and ears with a perfect memory and the ability to see through smoke or fire, derive temperature from heat haze, and other capabilities that computers can just do better than us. Audrey can augment a first responder's spatial awareness, decision-making abilities, and make them more effective and safer in the field.
Department of Homeland Security would like to thank NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Consoms Fire Department who conducted fire experiments in support of Audrey's system. So they're wanting to run this system basically that augments. We're talking sci-fi stuff here. We're talking, I'm all for helping firefighters be able to save people and all that. Don't get me wrong. But what Audrey is Department of Homeland Security backdooring their way in by having the system that you operate your local fire department on. And as we keep going into this paper, we're going to see more and more of that. The whole thing about this, the reason the federal government is funding this is because they know that all this stuff is coming anyway, right? Most of the cities eventually, this is back in a lot of this plan started in 2013. This paper was put out in 2015, but a lot of these infrastructure projects were already going on. They were experimenting. They were doing tests back in 2013 that we'll look at it here in a little bit. But by then, they already knew, hey, this is what's coming. This is the wave. This is what the tech companies are creating. We need to make sure the federal government is in this at every level. So then that's why they started funding all this stuff, and that's why they funded a lot of companies like the TVA, which is a private corporation that is owned by the federal government. So it's able to get around that pesky old Constitution by funding a corporation that we own, the federal government. But hey, how neat that federal government-owned corporation is private and thus not bound by the laws of the Constitution. So we will use the TVA in order to enact a lot of these things. So what do? They use the TVA to bribe the local governments. They say, hey, local governments, we're going to give you all this money to bring your city into the future. And the TVA is not the only ones that did this. World Economic Forum did it with 50 cities, including San Jose and Chattanooga, Tennessee. They also did, I think, Sao Paulo or Palo Alto. Sao Paulo, Brazil. And so they did 50 cities all around the world. But at any rate, the TVA funded the Johnson City smart pole situation. So the way they do that for, they didn't just put it in and be like, okay, city, here's you a smart setup of poles with sensors, cameras, lights, traffic pattern recognition ability. You connect it into your city hub. You make sure that your floodwaters are good. You make sure that everything's draining right. That the red light are going on and off at the right time. Keeping your traffic flow good, right? They don't just give that to the city, right? They say, we'll give it to you, but we get to keep all the data for experiments, for science and stuff. For science. And then the local city leaders are like, of course, we want to move our city into the future. We're going to have to pay for these upgrades to our city. So now we're not going to have to raise taxes in order to be able to get started on this. So this is a win-win for us. Sure, we'll give you all our citizens' data. And those smart poles can collect a lot of data. We still don't have a full list of what the ones in Johnson City are going to do, or what all they collect. I mean, they can be upgraded at any time. So anytime the city wants to throw more money at them, they can do it. But they do make smart poles that have a whole array of data collection. We've showed them many times on the channel before, but let's look at one real quick. Here's a company that's selling them called Digi International, Digi.com. And this is, you can find dozens of companies making these things right now, and they're going in all over the place. Multiple sensors, hotspots, cameras, energy saving, billboards, security, multiple chargers, electric mobility management. So lots of things that make sense to have in a modern city. You got a lot of people driving electric cars. You got chargers for them. You tell them where to go. You tell them, it communicates directly to the car, especially if you're having self-driving cars. That's a cool thing to have. I'm not saying that cities shouldn't have these things. But what we'll get into is how the source of the funding from all these is from the same place. They all basically got started through grants from the federal government in one way or the other, or international bodies like the UN or World Economic Forum. But you can, with these poles, this lighting control, right? One of the things that you can have in those is you can have these LED lights that actually affect people's, some of the papers on them said you could even kill somebody with them by flashing these LED lights at them and basically stroking their brain out. You can make people puke with the patterns on them. And you can look it up. Look up the puke ray if you don't believe me. But that's just one thing they could have on there. I'm not saying they have that in Johnson City. I'm just saying that's a thing that's out there, a crowd control device that is referred to as the puke ray, that you could potentially install on a multicolor LED smart light with powerful multi-LED. Another thing you could have is, with that camera, you look right here, you've got cameras and data management. That camera is a 360-degree camera. Each of those is a wide-angle camera. You've got a 360-degree view of the street. Each pole of those, is going to have those. You're going to have data for everybody who's walking through there, everybody who's driving through there, who they're with, what they're doing. Not only that, their phone is going to connect to your Wi-Fi hotspot, right? You're going to know what's in their internet browser, who's on their friends list, everything that they have open in their phone. If they haven't cleared their cache, or they have a VPN, or if you have a VPN, you probably have some protection from it. But if you don't go through and clear your app data cache and all this stuff like this, when you connect to a Wi-Fi, it's going to have some record of all that just based on you connected to it and your phone doing the things that it does to sync with the networks. Mm-hmm. So every time you come through that and you sync data through that network, it's going to have all the emails that came through. Yeah, it's going to be encrypted, but it's a record of it. So there's all kinds of data that gets collected by that. When you take these videos, okay, you can run facial recognition software on them, so they can make sure who everybody is. They can check your walk. Everybody has your gait is like a fingerprint. Yeah. So you could watch without seeing. You could take a stick figure outline of me and Dustin and look at our different gaits, and this computer would be able to tell exactly which one of us was, and probably a human eye, if you took a stick figure of me and a stick figure of Dustin and had them walk beside one another, would probably be able to tell that they were different, and somebody who was familiar with us would probably be able to tell which one of us was which. So this computer, basically, this smart pole, is running all these things at once. It's also, don't forget, they have a billboard there to tell you to obey, and all those good things. You got your panic button there, so you can call the police in case somebody drives through and their catalytic converter's leaking, and you smell little rotten eggs when they drive past, and you can push the panic button, and the police will get in their little mobile scooter here and get after them. But yeah,
Smoke screen.
Yeah.
I was literally behind probably about an 0203 Ranger day before yesterday. I don't know how the truck had any oil in it. It was smoking so bad. I was just like, how do you not know this thing? And then whenever he got on it at the lot, it literally was smoke screen.
We were riding through town the other day in Johnson City, and there was a dump truck just going, it was just burning white smoke just pouring out of it. And we pulled up next to it to tell him, you're leaking something, and there's just a puddle of pink stuff underneath it. I guess it smelled like antifreeze. I think a big diesel dump truck probably had, I don't know how many, 12, 13 gallons of antifreeze in it, but it was leaking it fast. But let's catch up in the chat here. We got we missed a lot in the chat.
We left off that Tim being AWOL, so you can go down a little more.
Yeah, there we are. I went way too far, didn't I? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Armageddon Hour said, Jesus can't catch a break, man. 8 days later, dang, poor guy. Oh, yeah, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, he was just born, and already they're wanting to snip parts off of him and save him. The smart cities and the mark of the beast does go to better like hummus and pita bread. It does, because in order for the mark of the beast to be effective, and we've already discussed on this channel many times the mark of the beast, and it's pretty clear what it means, what it says in the Bible. But even if you don't be if you're not into the Bible, it's pretty clear that the desire for the mark of the beast is there. We've seen it with the attempt to create the vaccine passports. Mm-hmm. We've seen it with the attempt to create. I mean, we actually have the federal digital ID, right? And they're also trying to create the federal central bank digital currency, and they've also used something called FedCoin. So one of the ways that this is dangerous is
Just funny, thinking you're like, yeah, the whole reason that crypto stuff came over was to not do that. And then you get the Fed boys in it, and you're like, no.
yeah, and now even like something like Bitcoin, like say if you have Bitcoin in a wallet and it's easy enough because there's such a record of it to track down what wallets are spending money where. So once they recognize what wallet is yours, you won't be able to spend money anywhere with your Bitcoin, because they'll basically be able to say, all right, federal government will say, all right, you won't be able to insure anybody who does business with this wallet, or this wallet's connected to terrorism. You just won't be able to, you won't be able to make any deposits if you do business with these accounts or whatever. So all the different ways that they can leverage against you, they kind of have. Even with anonymity of Bitcoin, once they designate a wallet an undesirable or an other, they can cut you off from. They can basically force you as a business to comply or face the same fate that the person that they're trying to cut off has. So anyway, that's kind of a bit a segue, but part of it is. I agree with you, Aaron. The smart cities and the mark of the beast go better like hummus and pita bread. You've got the digital infrastructure that has to be there in order for you to check people at the door. Like I think it was all supposed to go in during COVID, and they got more resistance than they thought they would. A lot of places in the world they didn't get that kind of resistance, but you did have pockets of resistance in the United States, and you would fucking think that Carter County, Tennessee would be right up there, buddy, right at the beginning, right at the forefront. But no, here in Tennessee, we had to wait on little tiny D Governor Ron DeSantis down there in Florida to do anything, and then our pussy governor followed suit. He likes to follow what little Ron does, and once it's safe and he sees that Tennessee likes what Ron does and then that they support it, then he'll do it, or in some cases he'll not do it, like not backing down from the red flag laws. Thank goodness our legislature had the sense. And it was great though when I reached out to the legislature when they were talking about passing that red flag law after the Nashville school shooting. The legislature was like, all of them were basically like, yeah, we got this. Don't worry, we're not falling for this. We know what they're doing. We're not passing any more gun laws, especially not in response to, a political craziness like this. And they didn't. And Governor Bill Lee was big mad about it. But good. Glad they didn't. We need to continue to expand the Second Amendment here in Tennessee, like we have been for the last 20 years or so. We're not quite there all the way. You still have to have a permit to carry in parks and on college campuses. And I don't know if is there anywhere else. But you don't have to have a permit to carry most places in Tennessee now, concealed or open. Which, the Tennessee Bill of Rights says that they can basically regulate the wearing of arms with an aim to prevent crime. So basically to me that says they can say, well, you have to consider it carry concealed here, or you have to consider it carry open here. So I think they do have some legal leeway based in the state constitution that gives them the authority, but it does say that you have to be able to keep and bear, or own and keep with you arms. And which to me means pretty much any kind of weapon, because it's not defined any other way. Mm-hmm. I mean, arms is a weapon. It doesn't say firearms. It doesn't say knives. It doesn't say guns. It doesn't say cannons. It says arms, which, what kind of weapon, any kind of weapon is considered an arm?
Armaments or any. It's an old term before guns were invented even.
Yep. You're arming yourself by picking up a weapon, whether it be a firearm or a spear, a pike, or a cutlass, or a rapier, whatever it may be, you're arming yourself, even if it's a short sword or dagger. Yes, that's right. So you gotta have all the system in place in order to have a Mark of the Beast. Because if there's some way for you to buy something without having that, whether it's an implant or a card or whatever it is, eye scan, more, and you know what it's, I hear, I see a lot of people want to keep their heads down, and I see particularly a lot of Christians want to keep their heads down, and they say, well, I'll never get the Mark of the Beast, and I'll never agree to that. When the time comes, I will refuse in a real fight. But I'm not even looking at it from this perspective. But if you look at the Book of Revelation, though, if you're looking at it from a Christian perspective, if you read the Book of Revelation before the Mark of the Beast is ever administered, the followers of the true God have His mark put upon their forehead. So if you are a follower of the true God and you do not intend to follow and have the Mark of the Beast and put yourself on there, then you need to get that mark on your forehead and go ahead and put yourself out there now and say that this is not something that you're going to be a part of, because it's not right. You got to, that's a big part of it. Like I said, not even from a religious perspective for me, but I think that's just, again, I look at the Book of Revelation as a key for basically trying to withstand a movement with a lot of force behind it coming to imprison and destroy your way of life. And that you look at the way he describes the beast and the beast system and the churches, or the harlots, and how they're basically used to crush everything in between them. Whether you believe that's a prophecy or not, it's pretty much a game plan for a takeover by a tyrannical government. So pretty much any time that you see a tyrannical government take over the world, you could pretty much follow along with Revelation and say, hey, look, all the steps are coming, all the pieces are coming into place.
That does make a lot of sense. There's usually, like, you could pretty much say, like, all the four horsemen stuff, because they always start with, like, famines, making it where you can't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
They destroy the economies to where you don't have anything and there's no way to get it because the economy's gone. And then, all the people that end up being not alive anymore from either the famines or the other plagues, or by the beast or the government itself, to those that aren't going to follow suit with them and do their new way.
And then you have the beast system or the government system. They're the only ones who have access to commerce and trade, and this could be even back in, like the days of Jesus, where, King Herod wanted everybody to come to their country that they came from and report for the census. Even back then, the king should have said, okay, every merchant with me has to register with me and name, say that they serve my God, or you won't be able to run your business in my kingdom. We'll come and shut you down. And in order for you to shop at any of the businesses in this kingdom, you have to have this marker. If you don't have this marker, we will come and punish you. Okay, that's how simple a mark of the beast system could be. All it has to have is the ability to enforce it. You don't have the ability to enforce it, it's useless. Mm-hmm. But that's what all this AI system does, is this smart infrastructure. It gives them the ability to enforce it. So you don't play along. You have a different political opinion, and you're looking at it right now. I'm not taking a side one way or the other on the Israel-Palestine thing. I don't know enough about the conflict in order to have a opinion of it one way or the other than it just really seems like something that I don't want to be involved with as a taxpayer. I don't want to be funding either side to hurt the other ones. If somebody needs, medicine or whatever, I'm all for giving people medicine and things like this, but I'm not for just giving people money, or I'm not for just giving them weapons to blow each other up. I'm never for any of that. But with the situation with the Israelis, I've seen so many different things in local in the Knoxville News. Our Senator Marsha Blackburn, there was a local report where they were accusing people of anti-Semitism for saying that they didn't believe that the United States should be funding Israel in extra weapon support. Okay, that's not anti-Semitic. That's somebody voicing an opinion, but the way it is, if you voice that opinion, you could be turned into an other, where you're suddenly not allowed. Well, this guy said something anti-Semitic, so we're going to cut off access to his bank account. We're going to cut off access to his. You're not going to be able to, have your money. You're going to have to go do. You're going to lose your house. Basically, you're going to have to lose until you go get. I don't know what they'll do. Re-educate you or what? It's like, well, you'll have an opportunity to maybe re-earn this thing. But that's the whole idea. Is they want to turn off if you don't meet the standards that the government sets for you, whatever they are, they're arbitrary. Then suddenly they can cut off your access to your power, to your food, to your ability to purchase anything, your ability to travel. And that's one of the reasons these smart cities are so dangerous, is because, first of all, they sounds like a good thing. You get everything that you need within 15 minutes of you. You can walk everywhere you need. You don't have to pollute and everything. But it also basically traps you in there, because once they get you in this system where you have to scan your card and you're able to buy in certain zones, then they can say, like, this is what they're doing in England right now. They're putting up like bump stops in between the streets so people don't travel from one neighborhood to another. And they're making 15-minute neighborhoods in London where you basically, it's so inconvenient for you to travel outside of your neighborhood, most people are just not going to do it most of the time. And then wealthy people will still be able to go wherever they want and do whatever they do, but they're trying to basically stop people from being able to travel except without government permission to other areas of the country. A lot like if it is when you see in the 1984 in the novel and in the movie both, Winston can sign up for time away from the city, and he can take the train and go out to the country, and he can be alone out there in the country for a little while or whatever. He thinks he's alone, but that's basically what they want it to be, is very strict regimented travel for the poors, and the wealthy still have access to everything. The smart cities are set up for the places for the poors to live, so the wealthy can travel from city to city and enjoy the different aspects of it. There's tourism being set up and service economies being set up in so many of these. And I think that's what our city is ultimately being set up for, is to be a service economy for tourism surrounding the racetrack, the casino, and they're setting up lots of outdoor tourism and things like this. So it's basically kind of going to be, in my opinion, another kind of hipster town for the wealthy, like a Seattle, Portland, Asheville kind of deal. Except we're going to move into a more technocratic version of it. And let's, because we're already kind of long tonight. So it's been an hour and 6 minutes. We'll kind of finish it up. I'll try to finish up quick here.
Because if everything is service industry, like what they're trying to push for, it's like, yeah, you can't work out of something that's not that, and they're not going to pay you enough to get out of that system.
Yeah. Yeah, for the longest time, they really tried to make this place a manufacturing hub. There was a lot of manufacturing we had, especially go Piney Flats and Bristol, Kingsport. This place, I mean, there still is a lot of manufacturing here, really. I mean, but when you think about what it used to be, and it's probably a third of the manufacturing that was here when we were kids, even though there still is a lot compared to other places. But they really want to move, and Patty Woodby, Lockdown Patty, has said repeatedly that we're going to move Elizabethton and Carter County to more of a tourism economy. Well, Elizabethton kind of...
What the fuck do you want to do in Elizabeth?
Well, that's it. They want to make that river park for people to whitewater raft, and they want to, which is how many months out of the year do you do that? And, you want the bike trails. Okay, so we're building our whole city economy about things that people do 6 months out of the year, maybe 9 months. But the Tweetsie Trail... the Tweetsie Trail, the bike trails, the Whitewater Rapid Park, And then we've got she wants to do the work farm in Roan Mountain for people to come off drugs. So, you know, that seems like a real way to like build hope for the county and like keep people around, like come and, you know, teach college kids how to whitewater raft and sell mountain bikes, but there's not really any, you know, there's not steady careers for year
We have
round.
an old bridge and a monument to all the veterans' dicks.
Yeah. Quantum computing and mechanics mixed with particle accelerators, how they're building the matrix or metaverse. Yeah, I was telling I was talking to B earlier, and we were talking about how they're going to kind of push us into these places, and you know, everybody's like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this, but the thing is, once they get you into this city, this smart city, you'll have a job to do there. It'll be pretty hard for you to travel anywhere else. And again, we're talking, you know, within like 2030 is when they would like to have this into place. And we're talking things that the World Economic Forum has espoused. We're talking things that the federal government has espoused. We're talking, you know, this is not stuff that we're just making up and saying they want to do this to us. They actually want to do this. And not saying that the local people who do it, who implement these steps, actually understand all of it, because they sell them a lot of good stuff with it too. They show how it's going to be useful for them on the local sector. But one of the things that they all don't notice is how each step of the way this inserts the federal government and more federal infrastructure into the process, the decision making that you're making as a local community. You're actually giving away more power than you're getting. So the Mark of the Beast will connect us to like that episode of Black Mirror where they trap the people's souls and make their conscious work the home appliances and smart home. Oh yeah, that's right, Aaron, you're right. Basically, where you're, you know, in the metaverse playing a game, but you're actually really working somebody's home, maybe playing The Sims or something. But you're like, you know, while you're playing The Sims on your game, you're actually kind of doing that in real life. Aaron says, I made it sound like a Fruit Loop, man, but I've even envisioned it in my sleep. Yeah, dude, in China they find you for jaywalking, facial recognition, takes it from your credits without you even, it's like the red light cameras, so they have jaywalking cameras. So here we have red light cameras, but you can refuse to pay them, but in China, the jaywalking cameras just take a picture of your face, send you the thing. You get in a fight at the restaurant, they just deduct things, your social credit score goes down, you got like, people are less likely to do business with you because, you know, you were violent at the market the other day, so they're like, oh, his score's kind of down. Gonna kind of avoid this guy. No,
One would be horrible.
I didn't know that Arabic is the second most spoken language in Tennessee. I figured it would be Spanish. Forehead or hand, yeah, it's free. Well, they just starve you to death. Well, forehead or hand, but I mean, if you hold it in your card, if you hold a card in your hand, that's a mark in your hand. I mean, the chip's not going to necessarily work because, well, for one reason, not everybody will. A chip won't actually work in everybody. You know, some people reject the chip, or it'll grow its way out. Yeah, freedom of speech is a principal pillar of a free government. When this support is taken away, the constitution of a free society is dissolved and tyranny is elected in its ruin, says Ben Franklin. Yep. It's a good point, good point. All right, let's go back into some of these documents here real quick. So, don't want to bore you guys too bad, but I do want, one of the points is I do want to actually show you where they're saying this kind of thing. So, we left off here with collaborating with civic tech movement, forging intercity collaborations. What does it forging mean? It means melting it, heating it super hot, and then restructuring it, beating it into the shape that you need. So we're going to forge intercity collaborations, and we're talking about leveraging existing federal activities. So research on sensor networks and cybersecurity investments in broadband and intelligent transportation system. The federal government has an existing portfolio of activities that can provide a strong foundation for a smart cities effort. So we got all this stuff we can do. We can fit our way in there. Pursuing international collaboration. 54% of the world's population live in urban areas. Now that's counting when you get to 54%, You're talking like China too. And you think about how many people they have living in those giant, mega cities. Talk about like Tokyo. So yeah, a lot of those big places over there in Asia have I mean, how many people live in the greater Tokyo area? Like 50 million, something like that?
It is the largest city in the world now.
Bigger than Mexico City? Okay. So you look
And
at...
even places that are growing exponentially, like Seoul in South Korea, is Seoul is like the perfect example of a technocracy already, because it's like pretty much 5 companies run almost the whole country. Five businesses.
Samsung and Hyundai.
Like Hyundai, Kia, the car stuff, and it was like literally 20% of the population work for Samsung.
Yeah. I like my Samsung stuff, man, so I guess I'm supporting South Korea's economy. I was trying to find jackets.
It's like, if people don't, like the kids, it's like, that's, like if they don't get into like some of those things, like a lot of them end up,
Yeah.
because they didn't get good enough test scores to get into one of the top businesses. So everyone's always like, yeah, Tokyo, like Neo Tokyo for all the cyberpunk stuff, but even though it is kind of over there, but there's still a lot more variety. It's not as much of a technocracy as what South Korea has developed into.
So now they're talking here also about pursuing international collaboration, basically exporting all our stuff to Africa and stuff. So let's find a little bit further down.
Sometimes I still don't understand that with the supply chain stuff. You're like, something I can go out here and see cost me more than something I can get that came from across the world.
Yeah.
It's like, that does not make any sense.
Yeah, dude, I was trying to find, for my company, I was trying to find some American-made jackets.
You're like, fruit that I can go out here and pick now cost me more than something that was made and processed halfway across the world.
Yeah, I could not find made in USA jackets for, like, we're talking like the best ones I could find. Like, if you wanted a certain color, you were screwed. You had to buy whatever color they make, and they're like $200 and $300 for American made jackets if you want one that's the best one I found, which didn't come in the colors that I needed, was over at the LC King factory in Bristol, and they make some really nice shirts and jackets, but it needed them to be a certain color, and they're like $180 too for like a thin jacket chore coat kind of deal. I mean, they're nice, but shoot, that's just crazy to me. But they are handmade, so it is what it is. But it's just really hard to find. There's probably a couple dozen companies that make clothing in America anymore.
Mm-hmm. And most of it, realistically, anymore, a lot of the good companies, which is expensive still, are still doing leather.
Yeah. Well, you can find leather. You can find leather jackets.
There's a lot of good tanneries and stuff still in the
and there's most of these places are like boutique leather shop or boutique clothing shops. It's not like, there's nobody doing like really large scale production clothing anymore, except for places that are doing like team orders, like, they have like 250 order minimums and things like this, or like 20, like some of them.
Like when you go to Walmart during the shit that they do in May that we played at,
I remember the fundraiser thing that we did.
Yeah. I can't think. Brain fade. But yeah, they make it to where they have like a different t-shirt designs every year that you can buy for the Children's Miracle Network.
Oh yeah, that's it.
The CMN.
Yeah.
So they would go through probably those type of companies to get those.
Well, I was looking at this, and so the Audrey system, like I said, was this AI Alexa system that would basically work to, and I showed you the video on that, but basically work to implement this. And this was in from the federal government paper back in 2015, where they're talking about what they want to do moving forward. And this is all the different the research and development and the test bed, and then the pilot, exploratory, and the development scale. So if you see right here, these are all the different ways that they're their federal government programs for this are cutting their way across different things. So you have basically the state is getting cut off over here, international outreach and best practices. And meanwhile, health and human services going across everything. You got your basically your federal government's coming across all the areas of technology here. Department of Energy is coming across all your different areas of technology. And you see up here, you got the smart grid, the Department of Energy. It regulates all that. So that basically gets the government into every other area from the water, environment, transportation, public safety. It gets them on the local level in every single area where, this is supposed to be local decision making, and they go on. You can look this up for yourself too if you're really interested in it. But they go on to explain how we're not just doing this to be making recommendations. We expect these recommendations to be made, and we're going to be going through and we're going to gather the data from every city that we're doing this from, and then we're going to come to best practices. And you know what best practices means, right? If you're in a field that operates under best practices, that means that's what the fuck you do. If you don't do it, then best practices, then you don't get insured. If you don't get insured, then you're not allowed to do whatever it is that you're doing, or you're not allowed to have a license. So best practices, for those who don't know, when the government says we're going to establish best practices, it means we're going to establish what we do. And it's kind of going to be a mark of the beast thing, is you're going to have this security, this smart system in place. And
this little seal of approval that says, hey,
that's right. And
I follow their law for this.
So they
jump through all the hoops to say I'm free.
What's one of the main things that they do about it here also? Smart and connected health research with a focus on smart and connected communities, right? We're going to leverage sensor technology, information and machine learning technology. They've got, the stuff that the government is funding in AI, if you go and just spend an afternoon reading it, like I don't even have time to show it all to you. But if you just look at all the stuff that they're funding with this for AI, it's insane. But it's stuff out that you would, if you were to make a movie about it back in, the 70s or 80s, people would tell you were being just, out there, or they would take it as pure fantasy. But here is where basically look at this. This is where.
So you're telling me Blade Runner is supposed to be fiction?
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's not what's happening.
Not supposed to be.
Supposed to be a work of fiction.
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to be, but it's actually not. This is from support research transitions in practice in cities and communities. All right, so this is basically the transition of research innovations to practice is critical to ensure there's a smart city community innovations benefit cities and communities. So basically, that's what I was saying. If y'all don't do what we tell you to do, then there's no point in doing all this. So you have to do what we say. This requires an approach that bridges the chasm between fundamental science and engineering research and full production. Federal agencies must work synergistically with industry, non-governmental organizations, and other stakeholders to shepherd innovations in using transition to practice programs efficiently, move research findings to translation and adoption, and fully realize their values. Now, so there's that word stakeholders. That's a Klaus Schwab word that comes back from, he coined that term in 1973, when he funded.
So that means the rich people that are trying to get their retirement back out of it.
Well, what they say is that the stakeholder is different from shareholder because there's lots of different stakeholders. Some of those may be the money. Some of them may be the people who hold power over that. So some of the people are the people who hold the results over it. Now, ultimately, the most important is whoever obviously has the money is going to have the most say in it. But he's trying to basically assert a certain form of a certain amount of control towards basically the technological superstate and by basically saying we're going to protect people, and that's how we're going to do it. So let's see here just a second here. We've got like the Small Business Innovative Research and Innovation Corps that span multiple federal agencies to provide mechanisms to foster strong, high-value partnerships with industry and creating workforce training and recruiting opportunities, particularly ones that have innovation and entrepreneurship as a focus. So basically, the federal government is guiding all of all this stuff that happens in the private market, a lot of it that you think is happening, this innovation that's happening from people inventing stuff, it's really a lot of this stuff being said, the government's like, here's where all this money's going to go, here's the companies it's going to go to, here's the direction we're going, and if you want to get your company funded, you follow this. So it's not happening naturally, it's happening all according to this plan here. And like I said, it's not bad to have a plan. It's not bad that the government says, here's what we'd like to see happen. But what is kind of bad is that they say, okay, we're gonna give you the resources you need to make this happen, but we're also going to worm our way into every step along the way. And this is where they started putting in the 5G programs. Look here, in 2017, NSF and a consortium, the National Science Foundation, over 25 companies and technology associations in the wireless sector initiated funding for the design, development, deployment, and operation of a set of platforms for advanced wireless research. So this is 25 different companies that the federal government funded before you ever heard the term 5G. Remember, everybody was talking about it around 2020. But this was already started 3 years before that. The federal government, before you ever had a chance to voice your opinion on it, they were already doing it. Mm-hmm. They were putting in the 5G network. They were funding the 25 different wireless companies to actually go in and put this place out. That's when they started installing it. So they'd been working on it for years before that. And the whole purpose of it, and we're investing $50 million over 7 years. We're doing another $50 million cash in hand and in-kind contributions by the industry partners towards 4 city-scale wireless research program, and they're going to deploy an infrastructure based on one or more aspects of the wireless technology. Design, test, prove, and refine advanced technology and algorithms in real-world settings. And what this is there are future generations of wireless networks associated smart city community operations. So this was the whole reason we went to 5G is not to make things more convenient for us on the cell phones, right? The whole reason we went to 5G is because we're going to have a network of Internet of Things constantly communicating with one another. It's going to include your phone. It's going to include these smart poles. It's going to include your watch. It's going to include your toaster. It's going to include
the cars that they're wanting to force you to buy soon.
Yeah, pretty much anything that has a computer.
Self-driving cars are going to rely on those grids in cities to, like what I stated earlier with like how Google Maps are like, hey, there's traffic jam. Mm-hmm. It's going to go. Which, like we say, it's like on the surface level, when you look at these technologies, you're like, yeah, that's actually doesn't sound bad, having all these things. But like what we've stated, when the government just weasels their way in there and then they have all that data and then they can say, oh, get this or that.
Well, it's not like these guys have a good track record either of being trusted. You can go all the way back,
God, you can go like just a couple decades after the founding that things are getting fucky.
Yeah. Just look at all the scandals over the last, just 50 years. But you even go back, they've been experimenting on us, lying to us.
They've been testing nuclear, like fallout on people in our own city, seeing what the results are on short term. Sending
us to war for the profit of people who already have billions of dollars. For destroying our economy at a whim, because one of them, wants to make some money off the stock market in some way or another. There's so many different ways that they've basically been, even for all. Don't get me wrong, the American government has done probably more good than any other government, but at the same time, it's not like that if they had been
It's
good,
not offset from all the bad stuff that they continually do.
if they had been bad and good to the beginning, and then they started getting better consistently, and like always working and getting better, that'd be one thing. But it's like we started off pretty darn good, and then we just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse further down the line we go. And you know, the 50s and the 60s, the CIA was running MK Ultra, and then the 70s and 80s they were, you know, murdering people in the streets and blaming it on their political opponents, and you know they were sabotaging children's milk trucks and blowing up schools in Central America, and
Legitimately injecting people with STDs and stuff just to see what it does.
bringing drugs into the inner cities, for you know, really starting the heroin trade in Vietnam, restarting the opium wars. All these different things that they've done. Nobody ever really got in trouble for it. They never even said they were sorry.
Every 50 years it comes out like, yeah, we did it, so what?
And then there's been no changes to personnel.
And some of them are still the same people that are in these offices.
But yet you're a conspiracy theory when you say that all these people who've done all these things want to do more bad things. You know.
That's all we say. It's like these technologies it's like what we say, they can be used for good, but the people who are giving the money to put all of it in, they're not trustworthy. They're not good people. They don't have the better doubt of you and I on their hand. It's like it's making them money, it gives them power. That's all they care about.
This was the National Institute of Health also launched the All of Us research program to gain better insights into biological, environmental, and behavioral factors that drive disease. Well, I bet you they've picked up a lot of data for that over 2020 to 2023, didn't they? For the National Institute of Health, the Department of Human Services, or Department of Homeland Security, funded development of the National Capital Region Geospatial Data Exchange, which comprises a system and procedures for secure, flexible, and standardized sharing of critical mapped information in Washington, D.C. Basically, it's the standardized mapping procedure that they use for that. They want to export that to all the other cities, and they're saying they're going to, you know, give them access to that.
Got a few new chats.
What's up? Talk to them.
Let's see, where do we?
Gassing the geese.
Basically, okay, well, Aaron said Tokyo's 37 million.
37 million. Sure.
And he also says that was a Hank Hill move, trying to go for U.S. jackets.
Dude, I'll try. I did find some. Just they're not exactly what I wanted, but I did find a soft shell jacket that's made in Nashville. It's like $125. Like a soft shell Columbia is like $75-$80. So, you know, whatever. It's a little bit more, but then I also found I probably am going to end up buying one of those LC King. If I don't buy it for work, I'll buy it my personal just because I like it, and I think they're expensive, but hand stitched, handmade over there in Bristol. Yeah, it's worth. I think they give you a 25% discount code if you use the code HAND25 when you order something. But I actually want to go to their store because apparently they have a lot more stuff in the store, but if you buy that online and you use the HAND25 code, then you can get a hand-stitched chore coat that is really nice looking and very, very tough for what's 25% off of $180. You know, that's almost $50 off. So you're probably looking at, you know, $150 or something for something that's going to last you a really long time. Yeah, from the look of it, anyway.
And hey, Alvin's here.
What's up, Alvin?
It's like YouTube must turn off my notifications, which they do like to do that quite often.
Yeah, they do. But we're glad to have you with us, Alvin. Glad you are in the chat. So
has been a minute.
So one of the things that I wanted to close out with here, because we are getting into, there is a big meeting in Johnson City November the 9th from 5 to 7 p.m. They are having, and I did a whole show on this on Thursday. They're having a meeting to discuss the direction of the town and the city's 20-year plan. And we already know that they've already traded away a lot of your data as a citizen of Johnson City in order to get these smart poles that they got put in. So they're probably willing to trade away a lot more of your rights without really recognizing the gravity of what they're doing. But I wanted to close out by showing you one of the reasons I don't think this is a great thing for us to all be following best practices established by the federal government, because this is this is from the same paper here that I was showing you from the Obama administration. And or no, this one was actually from 2016 to 2019. So it says federal agencies have a role in helping cities identify best practices and boost replication and scaling across geographic boundaries by facilitating multi-city programs. That's pretty clear, right? We're going to make sure you're doing the same thing in different places. Areas where best practices may improve scaling include intelligent transport systems that cross geographic boundaries, remote access healthcare systems that work in any location, and regional air quality improvements through coordinated local action. They're going to bring together federal agencies, local government, blah, 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 best practices, economies of scale. More cities and communities can all leverage scale and replicate each other's successes. So we go up here, and they're talking about how we're going to use more intelligent firefighting systems, allow safer and efficient evacuation in the event of a disaster. You probably know where I'm going with this, but just in case you don't, well, I'll get there quickly. We got news release December 17th, 2013. This is from the Hitachi Corporation. Hitachi commences demonstration site for Japan-U.S. island grid project in Hawaii. This is back in 2013. They announced that they were setting up this thing between the Cyber Defense Institute and NETO of New Energy Technology, NITERD, I call them, the New Energy Industrial Technological Development Organization. No, that's NETO. What is NITERD? I forget. One of these I started calling them NITERD. But anyway, they're setting up the Japan-U.S. Island Grid Project, commonly referred to as the Jump Smart Maui program, to resolve issues related to use of these new energy sources. And they're setting up with Hitachi to run this experiment here. And we'll go on down. We'll skip over it. If you want to look it up, it's real easy to find. You can, look up the Hitachi news details of the Japan-U.S. Grid Project on Maui Island. And this was a pilot program that they did where they were connecting a central grid that run on the smart city network. They have all the electricity coming in through it, all the powers to electric cars coming through it, and power to your home coming through it. And look here, this whole smart city platform that we see for total optimization is controlled by the information control hub that runs through all this stuff. This is an AI network. It runs, and this is 10 years ago. They were already practicing this in Hawaii. And this is in Maui. You got this going into your house. It's turning on and off your water heater, turning on and off your car charger, depending on what the smart system out here decides it wants to do. And like I said, this was an experiment then, right? So, but now here in Elizabethton, we have smart water electric meters on our house. We have Flux security cameras on our streets down in Elizabeth, and we have Flux security cameras in Kingsport, where they are collecting all the data of everybody who goes through them. Let's go to the ACLU real quick. The ACLU's not always great, but they do have. We're gonna go to them last because I wanted to remind you of what happened. I'm sorry, I wanted to make my point on this real quick. Why did I show you Hawaii? Why did I show you where Hitachi's going?
Is he going where the magical fires happen?
Well, I don't know what may have caused the fire, although there is a lot of renewable energy installed out there, which and people think you're an idiot if you say, well, the solar panels are going to make it hot, but they actually do increase the temperature quite a bit for when they're black, which it causes them to absorb a lot more energy. But then the things actually themselves absorbing all the energy, they hold it, and it actually heats up the ground around them, and it heats up the air around them a whole lot. Well, we want to go on forward a couple of years. This is from Hitachi also. From where they were doing this experiment, we're going to look at the new smart grid in Hawaii, Jump Smart Maui project. The state of Hawaii's goal is to obtain 40% of its electric power generation from renewable energy sources by 2030. This whole Agenda 2030 thing back again. Let's watch this real quick. 45 seconds.
Why can't we pull energy out of thin air?
No matter where you go around the world, reducing our impact on the environment and decreasing our dependence on fossil fuels is on everyone's mind. But how do you do it in a way that's going to benefit the most people? That was the question Hitachi asked before initiating the Jump Smart Maui project. This initiative demonstrates how electric vehicles, smart grids, and renewable energy like wind and sun can benefit Maui's residents, and it underlines the positive impact that Hitachi is making on the environment.
It's our future.
So thanks, Hitachi. They're setting up this this wonderful grid in Hawaii, and it's part of a smart grid that we're all going to hook up to. The federal government is going to hook us all up to that, and we're all going to emulate their successes. And they're generating energy from minerals, right? Well, what happened when they needed this, this thing that's supposed to make their evacuations better. It's supposed to, give them better environmental data. Well, the emergency sirens weren't activated on the deadly Maui blaze. The police department stood at the gates of the city and made sure nobody was able to get out. They set up this system. They've been putting it in place for 10 years, experimenting with it. Now they're telling us how they're going to copy it all over the country. And you had your chance to show what it can do. And what did you do? You fucking killed probably thousands of people. And this fucking piece of shit smart grid did nothing. We all, you could have had some cops on there on some radios talking to each other, evacuate people, get them out of there, let them know, run the emergency sirens that you run for everything. You run it when the wind picks up in Hawaii. They run it all the time. They ran for, like they said, nuclear missiles were coming in when Trump was president. So, you didn't want to scare people, so you didn't push the button. You didn't want to. It just makes me so angry that these people that are in charge of putting these things in, these gigantic failures, yet their ideas are implemented all over the country, and that's because it's not about what they say it's about. What it's about is getting outside control into our local communities. So if it means anything to you to keep some autonomy in your local community, go out to Johnson City on the 9th between 5 and 7 p.m. Tell them what direction you want Johnson City to take. Do you want? I don't care if Johnson City is a technological marvel, but we should have control of the technology. I'm not even a citizen of Johnson City. I do own a business that operates in Johnson City, but I don't even know if they'll let me talk there or not because I'm not a citizen. But I think they would. Would you? But I don't want to live in a city where all of our data is collected and shipped off somewhere else who decides how we're going to behave, and even when they fail dreadfully, we still have to keep doing what they say, and if we don't, we can't conduct commerce. And I know there's business owners out there. I've talked to you. I know you're out there. You've got to put that fucking mark on your head, man. Whether it's physical, literal, metaphorical, you can't be afraid. You can't, before the mark of the beast comes out, there's God's chosen or mark. You've got to show if you actually believe in something, if you believe that in not being the mark of the beast, you've got to get the mark of God on you. And I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just telling you, to me, that means doing the right thing and standing up for what you believe in and say, no, we're not going to take this, and I'm not going to have that thing on me. And if enough people come out with that mark, they won't even try to put it on. That's what they did with the vaccine passports. People came out and said, no, I'm not putting that on me. That's the mark of God, by publicly declaring that, no, you will not do that. That's how you're taking that mark, and that's what we all need to be doing. Don't wait until the time comes to deny whatever this mark of the beast may be. You've got to proclaim now. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I don't want any part of it. And so let's have a smart city that collects data on how high the water levels are under the streets, and make sure that water gets filtered and released correctly into the local environment. Let's have a smart city that says, "Oh, it's getting dark at 7:00 tonight. Let's turn on the street lights earlier." Mm-hmm. You know, let's have a smart city that says,
"There's a wreck down Franklin. Go ahead and start routing traffic."
I have no problem with any of that. What I have problem with is all the things that I've laid out in this presentation, whatever the hell you want to call it. We've been on here almost 2 hours talking about it, and I could go on it for a really long time. I've been reading about this particular topic for years now, and I read 2 hours, probably 2.5 hours on it today, trying to prepare and nitpick little things out of it to show to you guys. But there was so much I wanted to show. There's just no way for me to actually go through and show it all. But I think I made the point that they're trying to put it in everywhere. Their stated goal is to basically use the leverage of the federal government to push this into place by creating the infrastructure. If you want to use it, basically you have to make a deal with the devil in order to have access to the infrastructure without footing an arm and a leg for it yourself. And so that's what all these cities are doing. They don't want to be left in the past. They want to innovate. They want to move into the future. So they're taking the bait. And, you know, there's a hook under that cheese, dude. That's all I can say. There's a hook under the cheese. There's a snap trap. Let's go check the chat out here. We're about done for tonight. Where in JC? It's at the where is it? I said it in the episode the other day. The Elkus. Hang on just a second. I'll tell you where it's at. Oh, I forgot to tell you the other day, though. Dennis Quaid, Kingsport is having a Dennis Quaid documentary about something to do with the manufacturing down there. So the Johnson City, according to let's see, Horizon 2045 is the name of the plan, and it will be at the Langston Center, and that is this according to WJHL. And they are, I'll read this real quick when we find the result or a release straight from them. Maybe it's at the bottom. Yeah, here we go. It doesn't really give you more information. It just kind of says the same thing, but we'll look at it straight from the horse's mouth if we can pull it up here. There we go. Horizon 45. Explore how the city wants to grow, the growth management plan, align that vision with the community's goals and development, focus on implementation to guide the city's near and long-term decision-making investment, develop future land use strategy and policy framework. And they talk about what characteristics of Johnson City must remain authentic. Your input will make the plan meaningful. You know, and I think that Johnson City is a pretty, it really is a pretty special place in its own way. But if you're talking just like surface level stuff that are characteristics you want to keep, then it's not really that meaningful. I mean, you got to at least be able to have the Tree Streets yard sales every year, because if you have to have a mark of the beast, that's how we get the fucking college people and the Tree Streets people and the hippies and the shit libs on our sides. They're coming after your Tree Streets yard sales. They're coming after your farmers markets. You're not going to be able to use cash to buy things off one another. They want a record of every transaction. Mm-hmm. So you got to bring them to realize the Tree Streets yard sales. That's what we got to preserve. But for real, that's the 9th. That's, I think this, what is that? This coming Thursday at the Langston Center?
Wednesday, isn't it? 6th, because tomorrow's the 6th.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So the Wednesday at the Langston Center, it's the 9th from 5 to 7. Go out there and see if you can talk to them. I'm going to see if they'll let me talk. But I don't know what I'll say yet, but these kind of things just kind of work out for me when when I need to talk. But anyway, I appreciate you joining us, and let's check this chat. Let's get it out. 1, 2 here. Our town is too small. They probably won't make it to us. Well, you think so. You think so, Spill. 15,000 people live in my town, and we've got the smart meters on our house, and we've got the smart electric lights, and I talk to local business owners who are against all this shit, and for the most part, they either don't know or are afraid to say anything. So hopefully some of y'all are watching tonight. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to see you make your voices heard at any of the places down there. Wow, Alvin, there's not enough copper on the planet to wire in a fully electrified grid, therefore 5G, let's live in a microwave. Yeah. 70% of smart meters lock up and they shut off 2 and 3G powers on the conversion to 5G. I didn't know about that. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, man. Talking about, Alvin. We missed a bunch of chats from you, brother. Yeah, but I'm so glad to have y'all with us in the chat tonight. We appreciate you very much. Go follow us on Twitter if you haven't already, or x.com. I put the link in there. We're on Rumble. We are live streaming on X every Sunday and Thursday, along with the YouTube show. So if you can support us in one or the other platforms, or invite somebody who maybe doesn't like using YouTube, they can support us on Rumble or X. Only thing is, with the Rumble, the video's not up till the day after. So. But we're live streaming on Twitter, so definitely follow us on there. We're also followed by Rip Harshbarger and the local news on Twitter. So if y'all are out there, hello. And if any of you Nexstar or congressional or Sinclair employees want to drop us some tips, the stuff that y'all can't report from your place for whatever reason, we'll put that out there for you. Not afraid, not afraid. Hey, good night, everybody. We appreciate y'all. Thanks again, Alvin. Thanks, Spill. Thank you, Aaron Armageddon. Thank you, Dalton. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate y'all letting me know you couldn't hear me, especially because that would have sucked to do the whole show like that.
Yeah.
We'll see you Thursday. We'll get into news and current events roundup. Hopefully, Tim Nave for mayor will join us for a special quick interview there. Maybe Honest Tom, Tim Nave. Common Sense Tom, Tim Nave, I also call him. So we'll see you guys later, and Thursday night it is.